And we are back. We're 10 minutes late, but that's my fault. I actually have an interesting thing to discuss with you right out of the gate. So I'm late this morning because I had to bring my kids to the orthodontist. One of my four boys has braces. We're going down this road. There are so many orthodontists around my area. I was actually sitting in the wrong parking lot. I dropped them off in the back of the office. When I came back around to pick them up, I thought I was in the front of the office, but there's like three on the same block. I was in front of the wrong building. He eventually came around and found me. Will Boys says the goats are back. Uh, this orthodontist, he has a Hummer, like a bigger than normal Hummer, almost like a Hummer limo. And he goes and picks the kids up and brings them from school to the office. There's so many things that's interesting. You pay up front, obviously you pay this one lump sum, and then they do whatever needs to be done for the braces. I love that model. I hate this nickel and diming, billing every unit, billing every visit if you're cash pay. Like, just give me a lump of money and I'll tell you what I'll do in exchange for that. Whether it takes 2 years, like kids have braces for years now, or it takes 2 months, I don't care. Just give me the money and I will make the problem go away. There was one other thing that they do. Oh, and then the whole idea that you just drop your kid off. He's 12. He goes in. There's a bunch of kids. There's a bunch of people. There's no one-on-one. Like there's no exclusivity. And the kids don't want to be there. The parents don't want to be there. It's the perfect business model because you get a chunk of money and then you just kind of send them there. We were done in 15 minutes. I took them to school. Uh, that might be in your future. Did you ever have braces as a kid?
I did. I did not like the experience. I actually had the braces, and then I had the key. You would do a metal key to the roof of the mouth for the expander, and you have to like tighten it. I mean, I had like tension, headaches, and I mean, it was not pleasant at all. But yeah, there's ways where it works out for the owner, the business owner, in terms of like cash up front. And I think at the start of this podcast, or a year or two ago, I had Invisalign, which I paid like pretty much 5 grand up front. And magically I got to every appointment early or on time and never missed an appointment, because I ponied up so much money. So we can get into
Yeah.
it.
So this is the thing. We always say like, oh, people will pay for, Invisalign to make you look better, or they'll pay for hair, or they'll pay for things out of vanity, but they won't pay for physical therapy. But my question is, don't you think there's a little bit of vanity we could tease out of physical therapy? Like maybe you don't want to be I don't know who the politician was, but there was a politician just like now, I see it all over TikTok, that fell going up to the podium. I guarantee there's vanity in not wanting to be the old man that falls at your kid's basketball or your grandkid's basketball game.
Oh yeah.
There's vanity in not wanting to look hunched over, and postural changes that, maybe could be avoided or minimized if you start working on that in your 50s instead of waiting till your 80s. I think we could find some vanity reasons for people to want to pay out of pocket that, they would embrace.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing solid Eagles green shirt, hat. This might be win or lose the Super Bowl this Sunday. This might be the last time this year that I'm wearing, maybe until the fall, until the season starts again. This might be the last time in a long time that I'm wearing Eagle stuff on this show, and I'll go back to my button ups and my polos and my proper gear. Go Eagles, go Birds on Sunday in the Super Bowl. Anyway, yes, there is vanity in physical therapy. Will Boyd says, "Let's go Birds." Heck yes. Um, like unfortunately, I've had some clients though, Tony, that don't want to do, like, historically over the last five whatever years, they did not want to do gait training in their apartment hallway
Yeah.
because of being afraid of what the neighbors think. Like they don't want to look frail and weak or lesser than or whatever. So that's why there's some cohort of people that want in-home physical therapy so that the therapy can be done in the home, not in an office, and not even in the hallway because of knowing these neighbors for years or decades. So I think it's maybe tough to lean into that. So how, I don't know, how would a therapist lean into that?
Well, you're paying for privacy in a situation like that. I know that, and I shared this in my Facebook group, and I have approval to share it, and I have a media consent, HIPAA compliant media consent, so don't freak out. But I never do mobile visits. I'm not a mobile therapist, but lately I can't say no. Like, I feel so terrible. I had a patient. We did, I think, 6 authorized visits through Anthem. Then she fell. She fell at home. This would have been about 3 weeks ago. She and her husband had purchased the lift chair that I have a bunch of videos on that I've talked about before, like literally days before she fell. So she's at home, she falls, they get the lift chair out. They weren't sure how to use it, but they figured it out. They got her off the ground. She was so thankful, so grateful, so excited. But that fall caused her to be so fearful. In 3 weeks, she would not leave the house because she has to go down 2 steps into the garage. She would not leave the house. So they were, asking nicely, can you please come out? Can you please help us? So I said, okay. I go out there. I shared
In,
some photos on.
insurance or cash out of
Well, here's
pocket?
the thing. So Anthem, Blue Cross, Medicare Advantage does not pay for mobile visits like Medicare pays. So I said, look, I can't bill it, but I'm totally fine just coming out there. Like, no way, no way. We're going to pay you. There is no way we're going to let you come out on your own. So I said, okay, it's $250. I'll come out there. I was there 30 minutes. Now there were so many
Nice.
layers to this story. So she doesn't need an hour. She needed me to come out there so that we could go down the 2 steps into the garage. She has a non-medical aide who actually is the person that is a great friend of mine. I helped her start this business from nothing. She had never done anything like this before. She wanted to do a business. I said, go do this. It's blown up for her. She's doing amazing.
Yeah, I
She was
remember that.
there. The patient's daughter was there. And the patient was there and I was there. So in that 30 minutes, she kept getting kind of distracted. She wanted to write me the check. She wanted to do all this other stuff. I'm like, no, let's focus. Let's do this. And I knew as soon as I walked in, there was no way she was going to go down those 2 steps that day. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I need a win for this person. So I found a 4-inch step that she had purchased. She had purchased all the stuff. We worked on the 4-inch step in the kitchen. We had a great time. She was so grateful, so thankful, wrote me the check, not just for the visit. And this is what I shared in my post, but I had made recommendations on other things that she probably could benefit from, things around the house. She took me to the kitchen. She showed me how she has to sit in a wheelchair to cook her food, but she showed me how she has like a thing for the cupboard that comes down so she could reach pots and pans and stuff. And I was like, all right, let's do this, this, and this. These are the things that I recommend. And I said, here's the deal. You can buy them yourself through Amazon. I'll give you a list of links. They're my affiliate links. I'll receive a 2% commission on anything you buy. Or I can buy this list of equipment for you. I'll have it shipped to my house. I'll unbox everything, get it ready for you. But there's a 25%. I forget the word that I used because I don't do
Setup
this a
fee.
lot. It's
Setup
something
fee.
like that. Yeah. And
Concierge fee.
basically, and I said, so you decided what you want. You can have your kids buy it for you. I don't care. These are the things that I do think you need. And so they took the list. They went through. They're like, yeah, get me this, this, and this. It was about $1,200, I think, worth of, a chair and a couple other things. Like, she already had 3 wheelchairs that she had bought herself, but they weren't appropriate for her. They were oversized. They were clunky. We needed something smaller, more nimble that she could move around in the kitchen better. And so, you got the money for the visit. It's not a time-based visit. I thought I'd be there 20 minutes. I stuck around for 30, but there was no chance I needed to be there for 60. We had the money on top of the purchase order. Now that stuff will come and it's going to be work for me to get everything ready. But I'm like, why isn't every mobile therapist doing this? Why aren't they making recommendations? I did another one with a bidet. I was like, this is the best bidet based on Wirecutter. It's a $500 bidet. I ordered it. I received the commission on it. Then the son installed it for this person. I didn't want to get into installing that. We had done this a couple years ago with a really high-end lift chair. It was like a $2,000 lift chair. We went to MedMart with the patient. That was part of the visit at MedMart. And then we chose the chair, fitted the chair, made sure everything was set, got everything arranged. I didn't do anything because they did delivery, white glove, all that stuff. But, I had the commission on the chair. And then when we did treatments, this was traditional Medicare. The chair was there and they loved it. So just food for thought.
So you asked a question out loud. Maybe you asked it to me. Maybe you asked it to the audience. Yeah. Anyone watching this, you said, how come more mobile therapists don't do this? And you meant specifically about the recommendations? I thought you were talking about kind of like the whole offering, meaning something where you say, hey, it's $250 for the visit, but you don't even say a time. You just say, I don't know, did you tell the family like I'll be there at least 20 minutes, or it's just like I'll come for a home visit, it's $250, and they didn't even ask about a time window or anything like that?
Yeah, I told the patient I'll come out, this is the cost. I didn't talk about time. I told the caregiver, who's my friend, I'm not going to be there more than 15 or 20 minutes. So because the caregiver was going to be there 4 hours. And I was like, don't think I'm going to be here. And she was like, well, she's going to want you to eat. She's going to have food ready. I was like, no, there is no way. I am not doing any of that. And what I did to give myself an out was I said, I got to get back to the clinic. I don't normally do this. I've got a 2 o'clock patient. I arrived at 1 o'clock. I need time to get back to my clinic. What I was referencing was, and this all came from construction. Like when we were looking at getting the basement remodeled or a bathroom renovated, any contractor is going to throw a 15% fee on top of any of the supplies they buy. They buy the sink, they buy the vanity, they buy the tile, everything gets a 15% fee on top of it. So I'm like, why wouldn't I do that for therapy? Why wouldn't I, if I want to buy a recumbent bike, I'll throw a 25% because we're not dealing with $10,000 items. So we need a bigger percentage. So that's what I'm saying. Why aren't mobile therapists doing this, making these recommendations? If we know patients want to buy things and we know that we can help save them money and save them time and save them frustration.
I love it. I mean, I've done it before. I don't remember the percentage. It might have been more than a 25% markup, but like of course, as you can imagine, Tony, I have people here in the city where they're like, we don't want to look through Amazon through the billions of therapy products. They're like, you just said, 5, 7, 10 things that the husband, the wife needs, the father, the mother, whatever. They're like, yeah, if you can go through buy those things. And what I did is because I'm mobile, so I bought the things. I billed the client on their credit card, like the total Amazon amount plus whatever, call it 25%. But I shipped the items to the patient's apartment. So I didn't, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's like, I don't know, like cloud drop shipping or whatever. It's like mobile therapy drop shipping or whatever. So sent the items directly. I didn't even have to handle them. Then when I got there, it was like an AirX pad for balancing. You open that up, this, that, those types of things. More, and so you asked why aren't more doing this? I think a lot of companies and therapists are just kind of stuck in the model, like you said, of like billable units, and that's just the way it's always been, and that's how it goes typically, and no one's really thinking outside the box. And I think as reimbursement continues to get crunched and squeezed and compressed, I think more companies, more practices are going to be doing these things and incentivizing the therapist to do it. And then maybe the therapist, if it's legal and compliant, makes some, bonus off of these actions.
Bo said, making money goes against the thesis of physical therapy. We aren't even supposed to take more than $25 in a gift in some states. Bo also said,
that's crazy.
Cry Eagles cry.
Cry Eagles cry. Bo used to live in the New York City area. Then he moved to Colorado. I don't even think he likes the NFL. Are you a Giants or Jets fan, Bo? I think. Oh, he's a Jets fan. That's why he's a Jets fan. So
okay. Scott said, my problem in Palm Beach was that everyone here wanted to be treated for vanity reasons only. Medicare doesn't want to pay for it. In most cases, it's already too late by their 80s.
Mm.
Um, I get it. I do. But what I tell my 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds is I'm like, you know what? I can't change your arthritis. I can't change your bone structure. You're not going to look, tall and skinny again, but your muscles don't know how old you are, and your muscle fibers are turning over much quicker than some other cells in the body. So we can always make you stronger. We can always make you healthier, no matter what. I can't see Dana's comment, Scott. So I'm not sure what she said, but that's okay. Yeah. Bo said Jets. Spelling Eagles is silly. 4 letters. Jets, 6 letters is dumb. Um,
Go Birds, baby. The real
so
green team, not the Green Jets.
so follow up on that. I did in my post, I said, look, I could also just buy these things, double the price, and resell them to the client. I didn't necessarily want to do that. I knew that I could ship it direct to the house, but then they're going to have these boxes that were really not appropriate for them to be like unboxing big items and stuff like that, and the cardboard and all that junk. So I was like, screw it. I'll just do the 25%. It's enough for me to feel like I'm, getting compensated for the time and the effort that I'm putting in. And it just felt like a comfortable zone between what I could have done to maximize profit versus what most therapists do to burn their cash. I feel like that was a good in between. And this is totally, something that if you're going mobile, Medicare, Part B in the home, any of these things are available to you. Like there is no conflict. And I disclose it to the patient. I'm like, look, if you order, use my links, I get a 2% commission on average. My next step for this though, is to try and I've done a couple of these, use ChatGPT to create kind of a purchase agreement, I guess it would be, so that everything is laid out more clearly than me just saying, I'll buy this, this, and this, if that's good with you. I want something a little more formal that I can give them. So that's where ChatGPT is going to come in. You've been getting some good inbound. Let's talk about inbound contacts, messages. What are therapists reaching out to you with?
Yeah, so since I interviewed Jeff Moore on my show, on the Dave
Yeah.
Kittle show, so Jeff Moore, as you guys probably know, he's got Onward, and they're opening up more and more locations, fitness forward physical therapy, outpatient clinics that are independent, not in a gym, not attached to a gym, but independent, like most physical therapy practices. And I've had more therapists reaching out that I've known for years, or 5 or 10 or whatever years, and they might have, without tipping my hand, like they might have a cash or out of network, or some hybrid self-pay model, in different states across the country. And some of those friends or colleagues are reaching out, and they're basically saying like, hey, um, why aren't you doing that? Can we do that? We meaning like their practice and my practice, and can we, and I think the first thing that I thought of is like, well, all my colleagues and buddies and folks that, I've met in person or I've known for 5 or 10 years, everyone's got a different practice name. So like, maybe my thought is either it's one or the other. It's like everyone rebrands to one brand, and we do all the back office, all that, and same EMR, same billing, whatever, all the synergies, and save money that way potentially. Or it could be like a USPH model, like, hey,
Yeah.
if we all, assuming we all like each other, trust each other, all that, which that would take time and legal docs and a whole bunch of things, and not easy at all. Um, Everyone could stay independent, same brand name, all the signage that you already paid for, all that, like, could stay the same. Same websites, everything is individual. The back office you would want to consolidate, but those are the things, flying around in my head, because I don't think therapists will truly, truly share best practices unless they have a show like this, unless they're, they have some financial reason or benefit. Otherwise, like, it's just like, why would you take the time? Like, why would I take the time, or some other therapists take the time and share like, hey, here's the type of Facebook ad offer that's working for running analysis, or golf or tennis physical therapy, or golf performance or tennis performance or whatever. Here's a great offer for stretching or massage that is working on Facebook, and here's the CPM, and here's the cost per click, and all that type of stuff. So um, I'm kind of curious about that. I have more folks reaching out about it, and I'm certainly the DMs are open. My email address, all that is open. So you guys can continue to reach out, and who knows?
So you probably don't remember PTPN, or do you?
I
Physical
do.
Therapy Provider Network, I think, or private network or something.
Yep. Yeah, I do.
You do. Okay.
Is
I
it not
re-
around anymore?
I don't know. I think they are, but I'm showing two things on the screen. I'm showing Dan. How do you say his last name? Do you have any idea?
I say Vapney. I think it's Vapney.
Okay. Okay. Vapney. We
And
met
and I,
at,
and he's not too far away. He's on Long Island, I think, on the other side of JFK Airport. But sorry,
oh,
go ahead.
really? You guys should connect. We met at PPS. He is working on putting something together. I don't know enough to speak intelligently, so I'm not going to mention it. But PTPN back in the day when I started 2001, 2002, they were a provider network. You joined PTPN, you paid them, I think it was like $7,000 or $8,000 back then. And we had considered it because we couldn't get into certain insurance networks, and there was a chance that we might be able to get into those networks through PTPN. But then once I called them and I talked to them, they were like, well, we can't guarantee you're going to get into Aetna. Aetna was closed in Florida at the time, or we can't guarantee. So I'm like, I can't pay you $8,000 without some sort of assurance that I'm going to get something out of this. So we never joined. But I feel like all things, bell bottoms came in style, out of style, back in style. Like this stuff is just going to keep cycling through. And this is one of those situations where these provider networks and different kind of communities, I would still think, yeah, I started running after you told me Tuesday about ad prices. I started running a Facebook ad. It's a video with a call to action, specifically targeting patients who have had a knee replacement and didn't get range of motion. Um, I'm testing it. Depending on how the numbers go, I will talk about it next week and let you guys see what I did and how it's working. But I think this stuff is good. I've just never seen it, at scale, I guess. I mean, APTA is the best example. I'm asking, what do you think?
Yeah, maybe we can have him come on the show in the next week or two, because I had a Zoom call with him several months ago, many months ago. The one thing that I was hesitant about is that for their network, they're using some other company as like the MSO, like or the management service organization. They're using some other company. I forget the name of the company. I think he has posted about it. He tagged them on LinkedIn, so it is public information, or public. So Dan uses some other company, that company has a whole bunch of therapy practices, like billing through some entity, right? So you can kind of like use that entity legally, and then all of a sudden get like more reimbursement per visit. Like, and I think he's posted numbers like somewhere around, some payers $120 a visit, or some maybe a little bit more or less, or whatever, 130 or 40 or $50 a visit. um my hesitation, and it sounds like he's doing great, and they're getting more providers to kind of join the network, and it makes sense. But you're plugging into some like third party company, and it's like, if that's like, it sounded like a startup, it sounded like a tech startup basically.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that at like, they could go away like overnight. Like literally, you spend all this money or time or whatever, and you get into Dan's network, and Dan, like, let's have him on in the next week or two.
Yeah.
He can correct me. He can provide some rebuttals. He can challenge any of those biases that I have. But it sounded like some tech company platform that somehow has some entity that is able to get higher reimbursement. And that is like, well, how is that possible? Because why wouldn't, the Tony Maritatos of the world already own or have access to that type of a uh, I don't know, EIN or whatever the billing is that allows a private practice that's independent to increase their reimbursement, whatever amount of dollars per unit or per visit or whatever. So um, that's that's just why I've been hesitant with it. Or like, and again, those are all in network contracts, so like I'm already not in that game. So for me, it was like, yeah, like we're looking to collect like 250 a visit. Like
Yeah.
otherwise, like I'm not getting out of bed. Like what? Like it just, So like it's just two different. It's too far of a stretch. Now, if I had a brick and mortar office and I wanted to get busy and I was okay with in-network contracts and had therapists that can multitask and delegate and treat multiple patients at the same time, then that might make sense.
There are all these shades on the continuum, because like I know therapists that they have their own MedB provider number, their own mobile business, but then they join Luna physical therapy. If they're going to treat non-Medicare patients, they'll just treat them through Luna. And I think it's amazing because you dump all of your liability on Luna. You don't have to worry about billing. You don't have to worry about anything. They have the documentation. They have everything. You get paid, I've heard, the same day, which is absurd. I mean, that's just crazy. So even though you're taking lower income, you're getting rid of so much headache and risk. It really is. And I have no affiliation. I have no connection. There's no reason for me to say anything positive. It's like the best kept secret for somebody who just wants to pick up a couple visits a week and make a little money on the side. For anyone watching, though, don't forget, if you go to clarity.fm and you search physical therapy in the search bar, you can find Dave Kittle and you can pay to talk to him and he can give you advice based on his experience. There's also a ton of other, like Michael Hyland's on here if you have questions about Parkinson's. Heidi's on here if you have questions about billing. There's
Oh,
Dan.
there's Dan.
Yeah,
Dan
Dan
Batney is
is
there.
here. So there I remember back in the day, I was the only physical therapist on this platform. Now, what's also interesting, you can look at the
I'm
pricing.
sorry. So
Yeah.
who is that $18 a minute?
Yeah.
Down a little bit. Who is that? Who is that?
Uh,
Oh, I
so
know Steve. I know Steve. I'm connected with him on Facebook. So he's a practice owner. What is that? Serious? Is that $18 a minute? What is that?
it's
Or 10?
1667
60.
a
And
minute.
I'm at 833 a minute, and
Yeah.
that's like I think that's like a $500 an hour, rate broken down to the minute. So that means he's at $1,500 per hour rate. So love it, Steven.
Which real quick, I talked to my brother-in-law who is CEO for a $1 billion+ company. And they regularly will pay $2,500 for an hour phone call with a specialist in a market if they want to get information. Like they don't even think twice about it. If you told them it was $30 or $100, they wouldn't even do it because they can't get a purchase order for that.
So
Uh,
real quick, so Steven does like work conditioning. He works with like independent businesses that have like employee funded plans, I believe. So
yeah,
he
direct to employer
direct to
injury
employer.
prevention.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a great platform. One more opportunity that if somebody's looking for information and you're not sure that they're going to take it serious, you put a price tag on it, you'll find out the answer real quick. And I go back to our conversation Tuesday. Like one of the most detrimental things to our healthcare system is patients that don't have to pay money out of their pocket, even if it's $20 that, they're on a fixed income, that $20 makes your treatment more effective. I guarantee it improves the outcome of it because they are committed to it. They're invested in it.
So I agree with you, but how come you're still all in the in network game? How come you haven't gone out of network, self pay, credit cards only, 100% self pay? You're still like, and I know you believe it, I know you see it and all that, but you're
Yeah.
still in the in network insurance game. So
The once you start suckling from that mother's breast, it is so hard to get away from it. So you guys are young parents. I forget what they call it, and I'm not I'm not even gonna go down that road. I'm forget it.
Next.
Anyway, dependency is the hardest thing, man. I am an addict when it comes to some of those things, and it is tough. It is tough. But I am finding a different way to move away from the model, different than what everybody else is doing. So real quick, Scott said Dan's great, still promoting private practice network, which sounds like it's growing. And then Dana got on here. Tony, you're giving people what they want before they even know they want it, and they're happy to pay for it. You're a consultant. Yes, like, and I totally get it. I do want to be at this stage in the game, at this point in my career. I do want to be the consultant. I don't want to be the healer. I don't want to be the provider. I don't want to be the guru. I don't need, I hope I don't need my ego, stroked by a patient telling me how amazing I am. I hope that I could just provide the solution and then let other people that are in that stage of their career, because I was there before, let them do what they do best. It's like going back to football. I am an amazing third grade boys volleyball coach because I don't know anything about volleyball. I never played volleyball. I know the basic rules, and we can go out there and we can have fun, and I don't care if it bounces off their head. Um, but I probably wouldn't be a great college, volleyball coach. And conversely, a great volleyball coach in college probably can't go back to third grade and coach. So we all have our place. I just, that's why I stay where I stay, because I'm comfortable there. It's easy. I exceed value, the expectation. What else are we talking about?
And speaking about everyone knowing their place, private equity. Where's private equity's place in the physical therapy world? Or do they
Yeah,
have it? Do they have a place?
I think they do, obviously. So I started this conversation because I think it was Paul from Strata PT. He might have put out a post that said, and he's well versed in this world. But he said, look, if private equity is moving into the space, there must be some potential. You hear all of the negativity around private practice, yet you see venture capital and private equity, and I don't even know what the different words mean, truthfully, but you see them moving into the space. They must see opportunity that we don't see. I think the difference here is we are a bit of an echo chamber here. We are, selling or buying from our own wallets. We bootstrap our own stuff. We're not backed by venture capital or private equity or anything. So for us, thinking I'm a physical therapist who can see 40 visits a week, what's my maximum profit potential? That's not the same conversation as we're going to put $1 million in your bank account as a seed fund, and then we'll put more into it. And we want to scale this to $1 billion, So I think, yeah, private equity sees potential, but in a very different business than the business that I'm going to go to this afternoon. They're completely different animals. What do you think?
Yeah, so just as a refresher, so private equity wants to buy things typically that are established, that are have a very low likelihood of defaulting, dying, going away, right? So that's why they'll buy established whatever businesses. Private equity wants to buy businesses that have been around for 10, 15, 20 years or whatever. So brick and mortar physical therapy businesses. The venture capital side, they'll invest on the more riskier, newer companies. So Luna, Sword Health, Hinge Health. Uh, uh, I know that Hinge Health and Sword Health will die and go away, and then we'll say Luna's the winner. That'll stay around for years or decades. So it's more that it's way more risky, but then the winners are the winners cover all the losses. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for those buyers. Those buyers look at a lot of these practices. We kind of mentioned it before, like owners that kind of get into private practice and they were getting into it because they're like, I don't like this corporate place, their previous job. I don't like this hospital job as a PT, whatever. They want to go open up their own shingle and do it. Um, but they haven't had a lot of business experience. So that's where private equity then looks at these practices and they're like, yeah, we could buy it at like almost whatever dollar amount you think it's valued at, because they come in and they optimize way more than most of the private practice owners had been optimizing. They don't have a strategy for online ads and Facebook ads and Google ads maybe, and all the things in between about how to legally and compliantly optimize and grow a practice. So yeah, private equity will continue to look positively on physical therapy and see, regardless of the healthcare reimbursement, there'll be ways to optimize it and grow it.
Dana said they see the value stuck in the downstream acute care that can be moved upstream to better manage care in which therapists excel. So, yeah. Um, there was something. Oh, I saw a news release from ATI where they were partnering with a school and education program. And this kind of goes into that, you know,
Hmm.
where's the scale coming from? How are we going to do this? The bottleneck is generally in we don't have enough clinicians or we're stuck selling billable units. A lot of venture capital goes into technology, right? Because technology is infinitely scalable. I was listening to Alex Hermosi yesterday talking about how most businesses fail because they choose to serve the wrong customer. The customer has a limit on what they can provide. Whereas if you choose the right customer, you can go to infinity. So, um, I think ATI's move into connecting with educational programs is awesome. I shared a post saying I made a huge mistake. I thought I was going to be a great physical therapist, open a physical therapy clinic. Now, if I was looking back, if I should never open a physical therapy practice until I have locked in method of sourcing physical therapists. Like, how am I going to find the thing that I'm selling if I don't have an inside track on that? So that's
which
where I
which
think,
which is why, back to the beginning of the convo, this is why there was so much genius with Jeff Moore's model, where
yeah,
he had ICE, Institute of Clinical Excellence, first, because he wanted to share his clinical knowledge, built ICE, the continuing education company, then started to identify talent, that those talented therapists were already semi or maybe had their own self-pay practice or whatever, and then they are like, hey, let's do like a universal, like nationwide brand name. I'm sure it didn't start out for that way. It was just like, hey, Zach Longer, who I think was the first location, and it just went from 1 to 2 to 5 to 10 to 20 and 30 something or 40 something now. And when I talked to Jeff Moore, I said, hey, did you model this from EIN? Because or EIM, Evidence in Motion, because the Larry Benz, Tim Flynn, like that whole crew had Evidence in Motion, but then also they co-own that, and then they also co-owned Confluent, which is like, now it's 900 or 1,000 locations, but back then it was a couple hundred, or 1 or 200 locations or whatever. So I said that, I asked Jeff, if I forget what he said. He maybe said no, like he was just doing it his own way or whatever. But it's like the same thing what you just said. It's like you have a farm system basically to kind of
yeah.
curate and identify talent and talented physical therapists, and then you would plug them into a job or a role or co-ownership, partnership, whatever.
Those two companies were like confused in my brain for 20 years because I would see exactly the same thing. I'm like, this is genius. These guys are generating therapists and then they have the opportunity to hire those therapists and grow their business. How is everybody not doing that? Um, I wish there wasn't so much, and maybe there's not now, but it seems like there's a disconnect and there's almost an adversarial relationship between business and education. Where if I try to go to any of the local, like UC or University of Dayton or any of the local PT departments, with an obvious, I'm here to recruit. I want to bring your kids in. I want to bring immediately they think they're protecting the DPT students. They want to keep me away. They won't give me information on them so that I can market to
Which,
them. And
which
what?
is why practice owners go and do talks, and they might, co-teach us a segment or whatever you call it, like a tract or a portion of the semester or whatever. Um, Dan Rutenberg in New York City did this. I spoke years ago at Columbia's, the private practice. They had like a private practice uh, class, and I spoke like one night. right? And then, but also Dan Rutenberg he's the CEO of Spear Physical Therapy. At the time, they might have had 20 or 30 locations. Now they have 45 or something. What did Bo say?
Bo said, Tony, money is bad. PT academia. Yeah, none of those professors are going into work for free, Bo. Uh,
Right.
no, I totally agree. Funny backstory. So you guys probably know I already owned physical therapy clinics before I went to become a physical therapist, before I went into school. And so while I was in school, at some point, I don't know, toward the end of the time there, I told my class, I was like, hey, I will give you guys a free seminar while I'm here on how to run a private practice, how to bill Medicare, how to do all this stuff. So as a student in physical therapy, I just assembled my own group. I found an empty classroom and we did like a 1-hour seminar on how to go into private practice. Just because I knew these people needed the information. And now looking back, I would go become a professor in a university just for recruiting. Like this is
But not teaching the billing part, Tony. You want to find team members, you got to find employees, worker bees. You got to say, here's how to make your resume. Here's how to design your resume better. Here's how to conduct yourself better on an interview. Here's what to say on an interview. Here's what not to say on an interview. Here's ways to stand out in the crowd when you're applying to different jobs or whatever. Um, all that type of stuff, because you want to find staff physical therapists, not you were saying like teaching
yeah.
the teaching the students how to become business owners. They don't need, if they're going to come work for you, if you're truly recruiting them, there's no point of teaching them the billing stuff and the business stuff.
Yeah. No, you're right. Um, Anything else about money, venture capital, investment, where the profession's going? You think those guys are going to go out of business, sword and hinge? I don't see it at all. I think they're just going to grow to many more multiples of billions of dollars.
I don't know if you heard last week or the week before, Bench Accounting went out of business. That was a tech startup, venture
Yeah.
capital backed tech startup that was doing whatever type of bookkeeping and accounting services. They've been around for years, for maybe 8 or 10 years or something. And if they don't hit a certain preference with how much money the investors get back, and if they get too far over their skis with, like, they hire too many people, they had too much of a burn rate, so they had too many customers canceling, they didn't have enough new customers coming in, all of a sudden money dries up. They have a burn rate that increases month over month. Then the company maybe goes back to the investors and says, hey, like, we're burning through too much money. And the investors are going to say either, well, let's look at your financials. Are you guys growing? Are you doing well? Whatever. And then there's some issue with the core service, Tony, like in Hinge Health and Sword Health, because no one's going to pay for that out of pocket. So eventually the cash will burn out, and we're going to see it on maybe not even New York Times, but we'll see it. We'll see it
Blurb.
a little blurb on LinkedIn. Hinge is dead. Then they're going to reference the Dave Kittle show, because I did a show like 2 years ago. My most popular YouTube video, Hinge Health is dead, and they're going to say the cash has dried up. The investors did not want to put more money into something that was bleeding cash.
Yeah, I'm not an investor in any of it, so I have no interest. That's awesome. I think we hit a good show. We hit a lot of topics. Let's do parting shots. For me, one thing that I've realized forever is it just takes one seed of an idea. You see somebody do something that you didn't even think about, and then you're like, yeah, why am I not doing that? Why am I not thinking about that? Why am I not looking at it in this way? I had a private message from a therapist who wants information about how to build different insurances differently. And I'm like, I can't put that out there. I can't say that publicly. It is frowned upon for me to even give a hint, to Bo's point, that you're going to optimize patient care based on profitability or revenue. So all of these private conversations happen behind the scenes that nobody with awareness is willing to bring out publicly. But these seeds that we are planting they will grow into something special if it resonates with you. What's your parting shot?
Parting shot is I still think the physical therapy profession is thriving. I think if we continue, like we talked about earlier, if we continue to focus on providing value to the end consumer, it magically becomes easier to charge out of pocket. Or, in Dana's situation, or Stephen Foast, who we talked about, if you're speaking right to the decision makers of companies and you're providing X amount of value, you have a new avenue. It becomes easier to convey the value if you're leading with the value, instead of just like the traditional model of just like billable units. So hopefully trying to think differently. And if you think differently, you focus on the value of the end consumer. Then all of a sudden you get someone like Tony Maritato, who pays $250 for a 20-minute, 30-minute home visit, which is a $500 per hour run
Yeah.
rate. That's my parting shot. But also, Eagles, go Eagles, in the Super Bowl on Sunday. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Eagles are going to pull it out, but I'm nervous because Mahomes is great. The Chiefs are great, but go Birds.
All right, guys, come and find us Tuesday, Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you on the next episode.